Hello, everybody. Dave Finale here with Real Estate Skill Builder, and we are a different time than we usually are. We're usually 11 a.m. Eastern time. Today we were promoted and advertised at 1 p.m. Eastern time, but we had some East Coast, West Coast time issues, and we are here at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and we are really honored and privileged, as I am every week, with great people that agree to come on and talk with me about the subject of what's going on and how we can help people. And knowing that this is Real Estate Talk, TGIF, episode 61. TGIF, we all know what that stands for. That stands for Thank God It's Finale. That's right. Thank God it's finale. Not Friday, even though it is Friday. Thank God it's finale. I want to welcome Carla Araujo. Carla is a real estate, I believe, broker owner in Arizona with AZ and Associates Real Estate. Also, you can check her out on dothework.com. We're going to talk about that, badassagents.com, but also involved in women in a program called Women's Evolution. And we're going to get to all of this stuff. I want to right now thank Carla. Carla, good afternoon, good morning. How are you? Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on this. This is awesome. Thank you.
Well, today we got a little messed up with time, and you and I just had this conversation about the stress that we put ourselves under as human beings. So today probably going to be more about being human rather than real estate, but I think it all applies to everything anyway. So you were talking about the different stresses that were coming up and with our time situation. Talk a little bit about that because it's really important.
Well, I was having a discussion with you just earlier before we came on that time used to always stress me out. And I was always, and there's so much stuff out there about me. You can go to the work to hear my story, but I go through this anxiety and this depression at times, and it comes and goes. It's not like it's every single day, or it comes on a basis. Just depends on how I feel, how my emotions drive me insane. But just this morning, I got this time situation mixed up, and I was telling you the old Carla would have just completely shut down. And I literally was a complete 100% in a different time zone and out of the zone. And my mind was somewhere else. And AZ comes in, he says, it's 10 o'clock and you should be on this call. And I'm like, oh man. So the old Carla would have just shut down. I would have felt the pressure. I wouldn't know where to reach you, or I would just come up with an excuse in my head to come up with an excuse to tell you. But the new Carla owns it, and it's just like, hey, I'm late. It's no big deal. What do you want to do? It's on you. And so you said, well, we'll just push back an hour. I was like, okay, great. Let's make this work. And I'm here. But no, it was just my voice years ago was driving me insane. It was just, it's like two Carlas living in my body. One was controlling in the sense of telling myself, it's too late. You can't go. You can't show up. It looks ridiculous. The other Carla was like, hey, show up. This is you. This is all of you. People need to hear you. And so it's just always a battle in my head. And I believe that that's what we have. We're so disconnected with ourselves. Our physical self and our spiritual self is just so disconnected. But those are two people inside of us that are continuously, constantly fighting. And so some of us, sometimes we just shut down. And those are all the stories that we tell ourselves. Hey, what's the point? But I'm here. So the new Carla.
Exactly. I mean, we have these two things that say, oh, shit, no, and you don't know what to do, So tell me about your story, the Carla story. Tell me about, how you've evolved into, the strong person that we see and the person that you are. Because I've been following you for a few years, you and your husband AZ, and AZ was on a few weeks ago, and that was a great show. Tell me about your story. Tell me about, where you've been, where you've come from, and where you are today.
Well, I want to talk about, I think, because this is real estate related a little bit, I want to talk about sales. And I've always been in sales since I was like 18, 19 years old. I mean, I've been always in sales. Growing up, I was, when I had my couple, when I was 18 years old, I had a job and I had to sell a certain product and it's very popular now today, by the way, but they were just starting to come out. It was a product called Invisaligns. Have you heard of them? Yes. So I've always been in sales. And so I've always failed at it just because I went in with not truly having the confidence and falling apart constantly. So I just didn't realize that it wasn't that I wasn't good at sales. I just didn't believe in myself and have that confidence to understand that sales is easy. It's extremely easy. It's there for all of us. I mean, I think we all can be good at it. It's just truly believing in ourselves and what we're capable of. But moving on, I ended up purchasing a franchise. And so I went into that. And again, sales has always been on my lap. And all the businesses I've ever been have either fallen apart. And I've always been that blamer. I've always said, well, the market and this, that. And at the end of the day, it had nothing to do with anyone but myself. It was the way I was showing up. I just was showing up weak. I was showing up powerless. Everybody was walking all over me, and I was not in control of my emotions and my thoughts. And our thoughts are the ones that drive our emotions. Our emotions are the ones that make the decisions in our business. So everything just started falling apart. And so the two Carlas inside of my head were constantly talking to each other and going at war. One was telling me, you're nothing. You're not good at what you're doing, and sales isn't for you, and you're falling apart, and depression and anxiety would kick in. The other Carla was like, get your head out of your ass and keep going. You're good at what you're doing. Just keep going. And that's why a lot of do the work we have out there, what's called reps. It's throughout my whole entire life. I've been in business for many, many, many years. And so now it's like through repetition that I've learned, it's not about it's more what lies within you that's there. And if we lack that confidence in that weak backbone, you're going to continue running into a wall. Business is hard. Sales is hard. And if you're not truly believing in yourself, you're constantly going to go at war with yourself. And it's a lose. You're going to lose every single time. So my voice, going back to my voice, it was driving me crazy. It was like, Carla, who really are you? Who are you? Because I was one person in my home, and I was another person when I would leave and going into my store or showing up in business. I was wearing a mask. I was two completely different people. I thought the way people are going to respect me as a woman is through a dress and heels and perfection. And so I couldn't voice my true authentic self. I couldn't be me because I thought if I'm too loud, I'm aggressive. If I am too bossy, I'm just a bitch. And so I thought all these things in my head. And then the other Carla was like, no, Carla, you're powerful. You're not a bitch. You're powerful. You are meant to lead. Stop being weak. Right. And so again, my physical and spiritual self, they were just fighting. They were at war on a daily basis. So a person that goes through this high anxiety, and my background, my childhood was not easy. It was a lot of mental and physical abuse in my childhood. So that brought into my adulthood, not realizing that was the story that laid there. I thought it was just like, this is bullshit. And Carla, you're just showing up weak. But you can't constantly tell yourself without now really knowing what the true story is that's holding you back. So the true story was I was a weak individual because of the environment and society and telling me I was nothing and that's it. And I posted something the other day about hunting with the men. And I have to tell you, I was always in the sales and the environment full of men. And I get it. I respect that. I respect the male, but I respect myself even more. So right. I had to go in with that. Like I have to go in and show up powerful without feeling like the male is looking at me like this woman is just aggressively, she's a bitch. And it's like, no, I'm powerful and I'm going to show up like this day in and day out. So, but again, it was just me fighting back and forth. And it is, this is, I guess you can say, I don't know if this is harsh to say, but this is a man's world and I get it. But if you don't hunt with the man, you're going to be eaten alive. It is hard work in sales. And so that was me constantly. And some of the women I coach, I'll hear that. I'll hear that constantly, them saying, I don't like my job. It's a male dominant. But it's like, it's not like you don't like your job. You don't like yourself on how you're showing up. And that was me. I didn't appreciate myself. I didn't like myself. So I had to go in with loving who Carla is, a powerful woman. And so many people, when Carla came in, so many people started removing themselves from my life and made room for people who actually respected who I was. So there was just so much there, so many stories that laid like just at the bottom of the surface that I had to start digging up. Like, what was the real truth? What was really going on? I was showing up weak.
That's all based on mindset and what your own inner presence is and your faith in yourself and could be called confidence, so to speak. Is that right?
I guess, I mean, that's exactly what it is. I allowed people around me to own me day in and day out. Everybody owned me. Their opinions owned me. Everybody, their looks, their stares, everything, my employees, everyone owned me. I didn't run my life. They ran it for me without not even knowing what was happening. So for me to be successful, it didn't come overnight. It started really, truly knowing myself more on what was actually stopping me. Business success is extremely easy, but you will continue running into that wall if you really don't start digging deep within you to find out those stories that continue stopping you. So I always tell women this when they come to me and they say, teach me, show me the way, the success. It doesn't. Let's backtrack. Stop the success part. Get that shit out. Let's start with yourself. Why do you think you can't be successful? Let's go there. And sometimes we go all the way back from childhood and they're like, oh shit, somebody along the way told me I just wasn't good enough. Right. And you're constantly questioning yourself. So it's the question, like, who are you? What do you want? And truly go after that. But what does that look like? Ugly, shameful, doubtful, fearful. It looks ugly. So most people won't go after that because they're too afraid of what people are going to say about them. So it's like, I'm gonna go this far and that's about it. That wasn't good enough for me. I wanted to go hard and I wanted to go for a very long time. I'm in the game for life. It's fun. I'm continuously learning more and more about myself. And it feels great. It feels awesome. No one can stop me at this point now. There's so much out there about me. To me, in my mind, I'm too powerful. Don't try to stop me because I've already know what that feels like and it's extremely painful. And I don't want to go back. So I will fight for that Carla every day.
So talk to me about this, okay? So I've thought about this personally and I've thought about it in business. So you went from one thing to another. What was the switch? I know it takes time, but what was the one thing, if there was, that made you say, okay, I'm going to be me and I'm going to be this strong woman and, I'll do whatever I got to do to be that strong person, to go forward and be me? What was there a switch? Was there a turning point? Was there something in that made that happen?
There's so many moments in my life that I can tell you that light switched on. So many different moments in my life. But just for a long time, I felt so, I guess, living in the dark, isolated. I was drowning in my own thoughts. And one day I just woke up and I thought, enough is enough. I'm either, and I don't know, David, if you know, and you said you followed me, but I had a lot of suicidal thoughts, even in growing up and even in my marriage. And those were just thoughts. If I really wanted to do something to myself, I would have done it by now. And there was something there, that other Carla that was telling me, Carla, life is beautiful. There's more to you. Your purpose is to shine the light on other women. This is your purpose. This is why you've gone through so much pain. So, and I can tell you again, the one moment, the turning point of my life, because there's so many of those moments.
Sure.
It's like growing up. I remember this one moment I was laying in the restroom and I swallowed so many pills and I didn't. I think I was like 17 or 18 years old. And I thought I'm going to take this whole bottle and I just don't want to wake up. And I just remember praying, like, take me today. Like, this is the moment I want to die. To only wake up the next day alone and scared in the dark in the restroom. No one came to save me. No one opened the door. No one knocked. No one even cared where the fuck I was. And these were the moments that I was like, wait, Carla, keep pushing. You're alive. And so you're still here. Today's not the day. These moments happened throughout my life. There was one moment I had a stressful day at work and my marriage was falling apart. It wasn't good. And I just went to the salon. I thought, okay, well, let me go and try to relax. And I remember as the lady was massaging my feet, I thought to myself, right now at this very moment, I have a couple of hours to pick up my kids. I can go home, I can get the gun, and I can shoot myself. And no one will know. No one will care. And so I had to really sit there and really, I just started crying. And I was like, what's wrong with you? Why do you continue feeling like this is the only solution? And so these were all these defined, like, so I kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing forward. So when I finally stopped and realized, like, if I'm going to continue thinking these thoughts, I need to sit there long enough to find out why I'm continue thinking these thoughts. So they were haunting me. They weren't before. I'm going to tell you why they weren't before, because I was so busy with my life. I was going and going and pushing and pushing and pushing. I never stopped to really process how, I guess, dysfunctional I was. I guess because I was hidden in the dark, I was isolated. And my defense mechanism for a very long time, for many years, was constantly like just going at people like really hard and just being rude and aggressive. And that was my defense mechanism. So I sat there for a very long time. I went home. I didn't pull out the gun. I said, I'm going to sit here. And I did a podcast on this. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to sit in my own thoughts. And I'm going to go to the bottom of the darkest place ever before. And I'm going to talk to that woman. I'm going to tell her enough is enough. And I sat there for a very long time. And depression hit. And I allowed for depression to hit me. I owned it. And I sat there. And I was drowning in my own thoughts. And I had to talk to that other woman to tell her, hey, shit's getting real. And the only reason why you're feeling this way is because you know your purpose. Your purpose is to go out there and be courageous and share your story. Day in and day out. People are not going to like you. They're going to hate you. They're going to be jealous of you. People are going to remove themselves. People are going to question why. All these things are coming at you. But you're strong enough to handle it. Because when I sat there in my own thoughts, it was so painful, David. I never want to feel like that again. That was the moment that I was like, enough is enough. And if I ever come to this place, I will sit here long enough to dissect that thought and to become stronger. And we'll never get to know ourselves. We're wired since birth to believe one thing. And those thousands and thousands of thoughts are just filled in our heads that are just controlling our emotions to make these decisions. And so in order for me to be successful in anything I do, I really needed to go back to that little lady, that woman, and tell her enough is enough. Get the fuck your head out of your ass and get going. And I did exactly that. Now, am I perfect? No, I never will. And the more of these women evolutions and the more one-on-one and the more group coaching that I do with women, the more I learn about myself. And I never go into anybody and say, let me save you. I'm no savior. I'm not going to tell you that everything's going to be okay, because it's not. I just come in and shine the little light on you, open up a little door of what is stopping you to go after what you want without fear and doubt, and never stop. That's just a small little window that I opened up. There's thousands of thoughts and emotions that are controlling us, and they'll forever be there. And some of us go to death just dying in shame. And that's okay. I have thousands that judge me, thousands that love me, and I'm okay with that.
You seem to be able to sort those voices out, sort those thousands of things that you just mentioned out. And you do a lot of work with them. You have the Women's Evolution program that you do. And we talked about an awful lot of things over this week before we, the other day when we talked to get ready for today and earlier before we came on. And there's just so many things, and you've opened up so many things. And I believe there's so many people that are either watching this or will watch this that will get an awful lot out of it. And I want you to keep going and talk about, let's just go right into Women's Evolution and the reason for it, what it is, how it works. And I mean, you've talked about a lot of things. I want you to go through that if you could for me, please.
The Emerging event is a 2-day event. I believe it's a moment, it's an opportunity for you to come out of that dark place, to truly, truly express yourself more freely. And 2 days is not even good, and 2 days is not long enough. I can hold this event for 7 days straight. My events are extremely long, from like 9 to 9 at night. The first day is it's physical. It's a physical part of it, and it feels like the worst of you is coming out to fight the best of you. And you're just trying to fight and fight and fight like I can't any longer. And I'm there to tell you, you're not going to die. This is the one and only chance for you to seriously connect yourself. Seriously connect both of you and go at war. Who's going to be stronger? There's 2 of us in us. So this event is it's a place just to start digging those stories and bringing them to the surface and start dissecting them. Now, there's thousands of stories that lay within us. It's not even, the 2 days, not long enough, but it's a small opening for you to start seeing yourself in a better light Just see yourself differently. I have some women that hide themselves and are constantly crying with this emotion. I don't want anyone to see me this way. And these are powerful women that I coach. I don't want men to see me. I don't want my husband, my children. We invest in our business. We invest in our success, in everything, but we don't invest in ourselves. That is the biggest part, is ourselves. If we don't continue investing in ourselves constantly, we'll stop learning about ourselves. And it's important. And we all need that fire. Every woman needs that fire. Every woman needs to know that she is just powerful and strong. That's why one of my days is straight physical. And I'm good at that. I'm an IFBB pro. I will beat your ass mentally. And it's amazing. And they walk out like, I had no idea I had this much power within me. You do. The second day is all mental. We sit down and we break down these stories through a series of things that I do that's very private. I can't speak of that part of it. The events are your mind. You're 100% mind. No cell phones are allowed. There's certain structures and systems and processes that we go through to start dissecting those stories. Again, you'll never arrive. But when you do walk out, you feel a little bit of more freedom, that you express that part of you. And it doesn't stop. You don't want to stop because it feels too damn good in the 2 days you feel powerful. So you walk out wanting more. And that's what it's about. You want more.
So you work with the body, the mind, health, everything there, and private and personal as well. We talked the other day, and you mentioned it. You mentioned a little bit about it earlier, about emotion and how important emotion is, and how we base everything we do on emotion. And we also talked about the difference between a man and a woman. And a woman is basically talking about emotion. Man is the other way. We talked about that. And I do know that men and women are completely different. And talk about how you address that and how you talk about that and work on that with the emotion through the event.
Well, in the past, I've spoken to women where a lot of them are just holding back. They've always been told, you're a woman and this is the way you should show up. You shouldn't show this emotion. You shouldn't show weakness. You shouldn't show you shouldn't express yourself a certain way because you're going to be judged. So I have a lot of women, a lot of single women that are like, if I show up a certain way, I was told I'm basically not going to get married. I'm not going to find a boyfriend. I'm left alone. If they show up their authentic selves, it's hard for them because it just depends on the environment and how they actually were told that a woman should be a certain way is how they're showing up. So when a woman comes to me and says, I want to be successful and my business isn't growing, I don't start there. I start like, let's talk about what is holding you back as a woman. Why do you think you can't keep up with the men? And they're always comparing. And that's why I always talk about the men and women, because we're always comparing.
Right.
And a man is a man. I get it. So I'm not, and they always say, Carla, you hate men. I don't hate men. I love my husband very much. And I believe he is, men are just beautiful. They're just amazing. But I don't think the woman gives herself enough credit. That I'm not raising my kids to be behind a stove and wear an apron. I'm not. I'm raising my kids and that's what I bring to the table. Your voice is important in this world. Your voice is important in your success. Your voice is important in your marriage. Your backbone is extremely important. Without that strong backbone, you will weaken every time. I just felt like when I started coaching, I felt like I was a complete fraud in a sense at the beginning. Because if you see some of my videos in the beginning, David, I was barely even starting to discover myself. And I didn't realize that throughout life, I was actually coaching a lot of people around me, giving great advice and, telling people what I think they should be doing when I wasn't doing that myself. I was a complete fraud. Until I started really seeing the value in myself, what I actually bring to the table, I started really believing in what I do. But in order to truly go all in, I had to go all in first. And I always tell women, I'm not your friend. I'm not your friend. I'm not your family. I'm nothing. I'm a coach. And I come in here telling you and speaking the truth, but I do love you. I love you because I had to put myself out there first so I wouldn't be a fraud when I coached you. So when you ask me, what cannot ask you, Carla, coming on here, I'm like, ask me whatever. Don't give me a script. Go all in because I'm not afraid of being who I am. And I'm not afraid of who's watching and judging me because they're only judging themselves. Not me.
Absolutely, because it's anyone who has issues with stuff. It's them. It's not the person that they're talking to. It's what their issues are, right? So, we talked about, you've used the word stories and how stories. We talked about this earlier in the week. How stories stop people, how stories stop women, and the thoughts behind them. How does that work in with the doubt and fear? In order for a woman to take the next step, to improve, to grow?
I think the stories behind everything really depends on the individual. So it's always dissecting that story as an individual. For me, I can't talk about my clients, but for me, it was always, if I became who I know that I am, this powerful leader, if I voiced my opinion, if I wanted that next step in my career, it was going to look extremely ugly. It was going to look like a possibility of divorce. It was going to look like a possibility of people just disliking me and being like, who is this new Carla coming out? Is she real? Is she fake? Is she for real? And I was going to get a ton of judgment. So I had to go back, and my whole life, I've always been bullied and picked on, and now I'm a grown-ass woman. So you can't even use that as an adult. I hear adults saying, I've been bullied and picked on. You're a grown-ass person. You can't use those words, and we're not a child. You're only bullied and picked on if you choose to be. You have to stand up for yourself. So when I hear grown women saying, I've been bullied by all these men, you choose to be bullied. You're a grown-ass woman. Like, stand up for yourself. So for me, it was just constantly just telling myself, like, in order for me to move on to the next step, I had to understand that I'm not being bullied and picked on anymore. I'm a grown-ass woman. If I'm going to go after what I want, what does that look like? It looks really ugly. It looks like possibility. Like I said, I'm not going to have enough time for my family. My kids will suffer with the time with their mom. My marriage is going to suffer. And what is AZ going to think of me? So all these little areas that I had, all these stories, because as women, we're told, don't speak so loud. As women, we're told marriage is the way to go. And so all these things, and I was afraid to become too powerful, more powerful than AZ. I was afraid of that because I even had my own husband. At times, he didn't even know because he was wired to be a certain man too and treat his wife a certain way. When he would, and I said this on podcast, so there's nothing to hide. When he used to kick me under the table, like, hey, you're loud or you're rude. So he was even stopping me from being Carla because I wasn't, completely the way he wanted me to be or what he meant. So I always say this too. It's like, who was really lying in this marriage? I was, because the person AZ met is not the person I really was. I was just trying to fall in love. I was just wanting someone to love me because I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have love. I didn't have attention. So I thought, here comes a guy who's going to give it to me. So let me be this other person. So that bled into my success. It bled into my relationship with my kids and my family and everything else. It just bled. I become weakened. So I had to understand, in order for me to want what's next, it's going to look extremely ugly. How bad do I want it? I want it bad. Do you know why? Because I am 40 years old and I refuse to go another year. And this started when I was 30. This mindset started when I was 30. That's how long it took me to be here today. It was reps after reps after reps after failures after ugliness after people telling me you're bullshit. Get off. You're loud. You're aggressive. No, you're teaching my wife the wrong things. Now I have men sending their wives to me. The thing is that I had to tell myself, how bad do I want it? I will not allow another year to go by for someone to tell me in which direction I need to go. I wanted it bad. I wanted it so bad that I knew that the ugliness I was going to go through was going to be extremely easy because it was nothing compared to what I have been through in my childhood. That's how I had to talk to that other woman. Get your head out of your ass because you've been here before and it's ugly. I'm a competitor. I love competition, why I became an IFBB. I'm always constantly fighting with that other person. We all have that other person. We just got to start talking to that other person. How bad do you want it? I wanted it bad.
So do you think it has a lot to do with fear of not being accepted, with fear of being looked at poorly?
Of course.
Right.
Yeah, so, it has to do with all that. I mean, and that's why a lot of these, when you and being in sales, and being in sales is tough, David. Like I said, I've been in sales my whole life. Being in sales is tough because sales will eat you and spit you out, and you're constantly changing into another person. Right. Because you're constantly modifying yourself based on one loss. And you're constantly like, okay, maybe I talk too rough. Maybe I should be doing this. Maybe I should be wearing heels. Maybe I shouldn't be in my Lululemon and tank tops. Maybe I shouldn't have so much muscle. And so you're constantly, whatever it is that you're insecure about, you're constantly questioning. So you're constantly changing who you are. You eventually lose yourself. That has a lot to do with all that. So going into sales, it literally can stress you out because you are constantly changing. When in reality, it's not you that should be changing. You should start digging a little deeper on what you actually want and being comfortable with who you are.
Do you think more women than men are afraid to be their real self, their true self, their authentic self out in public, and they'll just hide it?
I think so. I think when a man is aggressive, I don't have the statistics any of this, or men and male, but I mean women and male on who's more. But I the way I see it is just my personal opinion. Men go out and you can have an attitude or be aggressive or stand your ground, and you're just the man, and that's the man, and it's no big deal. That man is just angry, or that man is just standing his ground. That man's making a point. It's just a man. But you have a woman acting like that, it's inappropriate. The woman's aggressive. She's crazy. She might be on her menstrual cycle, whatever it is. We're constantly being picked on. So when a woman acts that way, it becomes a little not the norm, And I was at a restaurant, and I was with a friend, and she was asking about this women evolution. And she said, Carla, I want you to coach me to a couple of things. And when I'm your friend, I'm not a coach. I'm just a friend because it goes in one ear and out the other. So I was having a conversation with her, and I said, I'm not going to coach you, but I'll give you a couple of pointers. That's all. So we're talking in this conversation. I'm very passionate when I talk, and I use a lot of my hands, and I'm really loud, and that's just who I am. I've always been like that, and I appreciate that person about me. I just love her. I just love Carla. I just absolutely love Carla, and no one can stop being. I bring sunshine to the room. I absolutely love her. So I'm talking, and at breakfast, and these two ladies next to us, I would believe they're about my age, and they're constantly looking over at me, and I heard one saying, she's a little loud. And I don't believe at all that I was loud. And as I was talking to my friend, I just kept being Carla, and I continued on. But I got to tell you, if that was a male having that conversation, who knows how that would have been looked at. But I know with me, they didn't agree with what I was saying. I was women empowerment, and those women there did not agree with what I was saying because it's not the norm. It really isn't. For a woman to come in and really take over the room and be this powerful woman, it's not the norm. And you're either going to judge her, love her, hate her, whatever it is. It's just not the norm. But a male does it. It's a different story.
So with the event and stuff, it's called Women's Empowerment. So what are some of the key things that you try to take and the words are wrong, maneuver or whatever it is to manipulate to get through to the people, the women that come to the event? Is there one message, or there's several messages that your goal is to achieve on those 2 days?
There's several messages. There's certain things that we do. What triggers them to making the decisions that they're making or not making? So we go through several triggers. But again, it started with Women's Evolution started with 50 women. And like I said, I've done this for quite some time. I think 5 years now. So, but for me to throw events, it was extremely massive, the first one. And it started going down less and less people because that's the way I wanted it. There was so much emotion in the room, so many stories that I felt like there was not enough time and I couldn't get to everyone individually. Every woman comes in with different stories, but are on the same path. They want more. They want to be free of these stories. So for me to tell you what stories and what process we go through is a little bit more difficult because it becomes extremely, it's every woman is so different and every woman has a different story that they come with. It could be marriage. It can be children. It can be the death of someone. It can be an affair. It can be, abuse. It could be so many things that they've just been sitting there in a marriage for 20 years and they're afraid to leave, not because the man's abusive, but because of what might be after the divorce. If a woman is a stay-at-home and they're like, I'm fed up, my kids are in school, I have nothing to do and I'm bored as hell. Okay, let's find out what you love. A woman loses herself. And I know because I've been there. And so it's like, okay, let's start to dissect these stories that make you think that you are completely nothing now. You're just lonely and there's no purpose in life. The whole purpose of this is to find the purpose. Like what? Let's open up a small little window to have better questions, asking yourself these questions on what you want in life. So for me to tell you what the steps are, it's more because now the women evolution has become to 10 to 12 group of women, because I dissect these stories and we go through every single one. This isn't a kumbaya, let's support one another. This is, I'm going to call you out. You're in the room and I know where you're at and I know your name and I know everything about you. Let's go. Let's talk about this. And so I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to have these women do anything I haven't done already myself. And that's why I said I had to coach myself for many, many years to come up with these bullshit stories, right? And dissect every thought. And there's still so many more in there to control those emotions that were controlling me in my success and my marriage and everything else. So I grab onto every single woman and we start dissecting these stories. And they're like, oh shit, I never thought that that was that one key that was stopping me on my next step. So it's an open window. And it feels so good after 2 days that you're wanting more and more and more. A lot of my women, 99% of them, go home with like, I'm out of this relationship. I'm doing this. This puts me on fire. I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna find this. I'm gonna go 10 times harder in my business. So we don't talk business. Yeah, there's some stuff in there, but it's more about you. What is holding you back? The stories. There are stories there that no one has called you on your bullshit. Why? Because we continue going to these big women group events that we hide in the back. No one knows we exist. And we go home on this high to only wake up the next day to hit a low. Not that it's women's evolution. Nope. I will not allow you to hide in the room. I know who you are.
Well, this is fantastic. I mean, this is energy I knew you would bring. Really, I mean, it's wonderful to see all this and to hear all this, and I think it's important. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's really important for more men to understand exactly what you're talking about and what you're doing. We know that we are different. At least I know we're different, and I know that there has to do with the way we think, with the way we approach things, with the way we are in business, and the feeling of not understanding, I think, is the most important thing. We need to understand that we don't understand. Does that make sense?
I have to tell you this. I absolutely love when I talk to a male and they're discussing their relationship with their wives. And I always say this to the male, it's not against you. It never is against you, ever against you. Your woman loves you. There's just so many hidden stories there that she doesn't even know at this point who she is. She just knows at the beginning, this is who she was in your relationship. And she's lived in the dark with so much pain and so much hidden there that she's fed up and she wants to talk to you about it. And the only way to come out is with misdirected anger. So when she's really mad about something, she blames something that doesn't make sense to the male. So the male is like, my woman is not making sense. Like, what is going on here? I'm trying to please her. I'm trying to bring so much to the table so I can put a smile on her face. Well, you can't. You can't save your wives. You can't save your girlfriends. You can't save anyone. You can only be you. So I always tell these males, stop trying to put a happy face on your wife. It's not going to work. You are going to hate yourself even more by trying to kiss somebody's butt. By constantly going at war with yourself to make yourself a better person for your wife. So when people always tell me, Carla, you and AZ, you saved your marriage. You guys made it work. It's like, we didn't save our marriage. Marriage was shot. Marriage was done. We saved ourselves. And that's all it was. I didn't save my marriage. Not at all. I didn't go to counseling psychiatrist for them to tell me, hey, you can tell me what's wrong with my marriage. It's like, no, it had nothing to do with my marriage. It was everything to do with me. What was wrong with me? So I started coaching myself and I started loving him more. And I had to ask myself, even in that process of coaching myself, do I really love this man? Do I still love him after so many years? I've been with AZ, 18 years or so? It's like, I feel like I just remarried him a couple of years ago when I found myself. So when we came together, it was like, do you still love this person? But I'm completely different than who you met. AZ asked me the same question, do you love this man? And we're like, okay, then let's make this work. But we didn't save our marriage. There was nothing there. Who we were when we first met is not who we were 5 years ago. Shit, I'm not the same Carla I was last year. It's constantly growth. And if you're not growing with me, this ain't going to work out. This marriage is done. So either we grow together to become stronger together or get the hell out of my way, because nothing or nobody is going to stop me. Life is too beautiful, too precious, and my purpose on earth is completely different. My purpose on earth is to continue shining the light on people in general, men or women, not to be married. That's not my purpose. And I always tell AZ this, God saved you, AZ, to come and save me. Because at that time of my life, I needed someone to tell me how amazing I was and how beautiful and how powerful I was. AZ did exactly that. Until I became too powerful, AZ's like, oh, you're a little too much up there. But it felt too good. AZ did the same thing. So we were starting to cut. We started just not getting along. So it started to become, hey, you know what? If this is going to work out, we must support each other, whichever direction we go. But we're not here for each other. I would not find my purpose if I thought the only purpose on earth was to be married. That's not my purpose.
That's really good, and that's a really good answer to the question. This has been really good. I mean, and we're banging up against 40 minutes. I want to ask you, what is one thing that you would say to women or men and women alike to grow themselves better? What would be one or two things you could say to try to put some of all this together?
I think the hardest thing for people to do is continue knowing more and more about themselves. I think when we open one door to who we truly are, it gets a little too scary, and we either shut it or we prolong it to go on to the next door. So we're constantly just stuck, and we constantly run into this wall. And it's like, why are we not growing? What's happening here? Why do I still feel this way? Why isn't my business growing? Why is my marriage falling apart? Because you're refusing to continue knowing more and more about yourself. So we want to know about other people. We want to know about our spouses. Stop. You can't change anyone. You can only get to know more and more about yourself. And the deeper you go within yourself, the scarier it becomes, but the more powerful you become, because you start to dissect all these stories. And again, who you were when we were younger, it's like we're wired to believe all these things that are very untrue. Who you are today and what your purpose on life is. It's huge. And many of us are lost. I'm not lost, but I haven't arrived, and I'm not perfect by any means. And it becomes really scary because I become really, really good at dissecting my stories and sitting in one place to go to a very dark place. I don't crawl myself out anymore. I sit there. And I get out when I want to get out, when I start to discover new things. And it becomes really scary. So all we know for some of us is continue running. It's like, stop, just stop. You know, it's hard. So stop trying to figure it out. Just start to dissect one story at a time and bring it to the surface and try to find out what's going on with yourself, not with your spouse.
Do you think we ever arrive?
No, never. It's there's always so much that lays with it. It's just so hurtful. It's so hurtful when you sit there. You don't want to blame your parents. You don't want to blame society. You want to blame an environment. There's no one to blame at a certain point, but we'll never arrive because there's always so much within us. It's scary. And so, like I said, we stop because it becomes too scary. And when we find one answer, we think, okay, that's good. That's as far as I need to go. No, there's so much more. And at these women evolutions, I get to learn more and more about myself. Every time I coach, my clients teach me so much about myself. So it's not like I'm sitting there telling you, this is what you need to do. Let me shine the light. It's like, no, I put myself out there more than anything. You're not the only one. Men and women they're not the only ones out there that are, feeling the way they're feeling, I guess, and their own thoughts. Everyone is. But the more you sit there and get to know more and more about yourself, it becomes extremely scary and just beautiful because you start to bring these stories to the surface.
Yeah, we have someone chiming in on this. A guy by the name of AZ chimes in and says, "Powerful." AZ Araujo. I guess one of you guys know each other. But you know, I really want to thank you for coming on. This has been, honestly, this is everything I thought it would be and more. And I'm still excited about everything we talked about, and just wish we had a lot more time. But we want people to be able to watch this and to be able to really get into it and not say, oh, it's how long it is and not watch it. I know how that is. But how do people get in contact with you? How do they connect with you so that if they want to, they can reach out?
There's several formats you can reach out to me, but you can go to the website, www.dothework.com. You can go there. I also have dothework.com, women's
We three.
dothework.com/we3. You can send me a message. You can send me a message on my email as well, carla@dothework.com. You can message me on Facebook. I'm at AZ Figure on Facebook. So those are some of the ways you can reach me.
That's fantastic. This has been excellent. I want to thank you. And I don't want, to worry, because I know when you had to change the time today, you're worried about not getting your hat.
I wanted that hat. I love hats.
See, I just wanted to make sure that you are getting the hat. That's why everybody comes on. Necessarily won't be this one, but and with everything I had to change, my branding's not up there, but who cares? Carla, thank you so very much. This has been excellent.
Well,
just stay on after we cut off for a minute, and thank everybody for watching this. Whether you watch it now or the replay, please reach out. Let us know if you have any questions. We can answer them later on as well. Carla, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.